So I want to talk to you guys a little bit today about some of the rules that improvisers use to communicate on stage to create really great scenes. And you can use these tools to communicate at work, in your business, to create a really great career. And improvisers use their techniques and they follow these rules to make you happy. It's called humor. And humor is really good for us because one of the things that humor does is that it releases a chemical in your brain called endorphins. And this is happy juice. And it makes us feel like we're in love. And that's why chocolate is so good for you and heroin is so bad for you. A Forbes article in 2012 asked the question, are funny people better in business? And the study had a lot of statistics. And it all came down to is people that use empathic humor are more successful. And that means that they make fun of themselves in the situations. They don't use hostile humor, and that's evil. And we've all experienced that since we were a kid, where people make fun of us and people use humor to beat up on people. As improvisers, and it takes 2 years minimum to train a good improviser at the Second City, we teach them never to say yes to evil on stage. We use empathic humor. The article said that people that use that type of humor, and when they interact with teams in business, the productivity of those teams can increase by 31%. Salespeople can sell 37% more of whatever they sell. And physicians, 19% of them will come to a diagnosis quicker and it will be more accurate if they're happy. I thought what was really cool in the article is one of the statistics was that about 15% of people get terminated or fired from their jobs because they're incompetent. The other 85%, because they don't get along with people and they don't make them happy. I hope after today that if you get fired, you will know it's because you are incompetent. So, improvisers use rules. It was a funny thing. I was having lunch with somebody who said, I have to go teach an advanced improv class, and I got to teach them rules. And they said, well, improvisers don't use rules. And I'm like, yes, they do. In fact, what we have to do when you're an adult and you come and we teach you to improvise, we have to play games for about the first 3 months because you forget to play games. You forget to follow rules because everybody tells you have to break them. If we look at what makes us happy and how we get there, it's a very simple formula, but most people are unaware of it. I want to make one quick statement about improvisation, and that's from the quintessential American thespian Johnny Depp and Tim Burton's classic remake of Willie Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. Willie Wonka's getting kind of put against the wall by one of his kids about Augustus Gloop and the incident in which he disappeared. And it appeared that the Oompa Loompas already had the song written. And he was questioned about this pretty directly. And he made this statement. He said, improvisation is a parlor trick. Anyone can do it. That is true. I'd just like to add a little bit to that. Improvisation is a parlor trick. Anyone can do it poorly. You have to follow the rules. Let's start with the quintessential American Western, Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, and we're going to learn a little bit about rules so you guys imprint it, and hopefully we'll get some endorphins going. Harvey Logan, played by the quintessential American character actor and voiceover artist Ted Cassidy. Now, I don't know if any of you recognize this scene from the movie. He's actually threatening him with a very large knife. If you've worked or you've been at school and everything, I've seen this image before. My boss, the people that work for me, my dad. We've all been threatened one way or another, kind of evil, the way that he wants to settle this. The situation is that Butch has come back and Harvey's going to challenge him for control over the gang. Now, I don't know if you really know who Ted Cassidy is, but he played this guy, Lurch, on the Addams Family. But what's even more interesting, because it's a TED Talk and we're going to educate you here, he also played Thing. Now, Ted Cassidy just wasn't a big guy who could just put on an outfit and go out there and everything. He played thing most of the time with his right hand. And he did his left hand every once in a while just to see if anybody would notice. Try to find a left hand of thing on Google. Takes you all night long. He also played rock on a Star Trek episode where he played an android in What Little Girls Are Made Of. He did the voiceover for Belloc in the Corbinite maneuver. And he played the voice of the Gorn in Arena. A lot of people think he was Chewbacca. He wasn't. That was Peter Mayhew. I'm sorry, I have to apologize. I put those slides in there because I made a promise to myself if I ever did a TED Talk, I would reference three things: Star Trek, Star Wars, and Enron. So Butch has to deal with this. So what does Butch do? He says, well, first of all, Harvey and I, we got to get the rules straight. And Harvey says, rules in a knife fight? No rules. So Butch walks up, applies a vicious kick to Harvey's reproductive area. Harvey crumbles to the ground. Butch knocks him out, and he wins the fight. There's no rules in a knife fight. There are rules in improvisation. And are there rules in business? Enron. I'm going to give you 3 rules. And these are the 3 rules that I want you to remember, and then we're going to talk about 3 simple words. But these are the 3 rules that improvisers work so hard for those first 2 years to try to get down. And you can use this at work, and this is what we're talking about. We're talking about taking the communication, because when you see improvisers on stage, they seem to be communicating at another level. They're just a little bit ahead of you. And sometimes you've seen that at work or school. It's usually at the end of a meeting where things get productive, and people start communicating. Yeah, I'll do that. We'll take care of that. I'll follow up with that. We'll do that. And you'll see that on stage when improvisers are doing that, because they're following these rules. The first one is don't deny. And what I mean by that is, how many times have you been with somebody in a class, working on a project, at work or whatever, and you say, hey, I have a really great idea. No, we can't do that. Morale's so low. You just hear that. If somebody gives you an idea on stage, you're supposed to take it. You do this all the time. You improvise every day. I'm sure that you had some interactions today where you didn't have a script. You met people. When I met Mary, if I shook Mary's hand and said, hi, I'm Jim, and she says, I'm Mary, and I say, no, you're not. Conversation doesn't go very far, so we learn that. Another thing is, don't ask questions. You say, wait a second, Jim, since I was a little kid, I was taught that golden rule. There are no dumb questions, there's only dumb people. Asking questions is called a pimp on stage. It means I'm making that other person do the work for me. What is that? Where did that come from? Who are you? You're supposed to supply the answers. And I'll tell you that this is a very key thing for you if you're going to go in the business world. And all of us that are going to receive a paycheck are in some sort of business. For the most part, you're going to be paid to provide answers, not ask questions. The guys at the top get to do that. The ladies at the top get to do that. We have to provide the answers. We have to solve their problems. So one of the things, if you're lucky enough to have an agenda before you go to a meeting, sit down and ask yourself, what are the first 3 questions you think is going to be asked? What's going to be covered in this meeting? And try to come up with the answers. Because when I look at people as a healthcare executive, and I'm in the room and I'm having a meeting, I'm looking for answers. A question every once in a while, that's fine. But there's some people that's all they do is they ask questions. It won't get you anywhere. It won't get you anywhere on stage. It won't get you anywhere in the business world. And the last part of it is yes and. And yes anding is simply this. On stage, if I give somebody something and I say, Mary, let's go to the movies, all she has to do is agree and heighten it. Yes, and let's go get dinner. And she's taken what I've given and she's made it a little bit bigger. And your supervisors and the people that you work with desperately want you to do this. It is very hard for some people to even sit in a room and come up with an idea. But when they do, and if it's good, you want to take it. Let's go into the Asian market, yes, and let's capture more of that. I worked with one of the newscasters in the local media, and we specifically worked on this. So when somebody gave him something, he would take it and say, yes, that's what it is, and he added something to it. So those are those 3 basic rules that I want you guys to take away from here. And it's easy. Don't deny. Don't ask questions, provide answers. and try to yes and. Who, what, and where. You can get a little sticky note and kind of put it on your desk or where you study or where you work. And we'll have to break these kind of down. I'm going to start with where. So we learn this as improvisers, and you've seen it all the time. I'll ask for a location, and somebody will yell out a bus terminal. Where is so important because it's part of what's called the tyranny of story. You have to know where things are. You can see a movie, and they'll show the Pentagon, the most recognized building in the world, and across the bottom of the screen, it'll say, the Pentagon. Tony Scott, Top Gun, Indian Ocean, present day. Where are you in your company? Can you make decisions from where you are? Can you get to where you want to be? Are you in right field? Are you the next gal or guy to be promoted? Do you know where you're going? You have to be honest with yourself in that. And if you can't get there from here, you have to make a plan to get to that next spot. Improvisers create a where so they have some place in which to work. What? An independent activity. So we teach at Second City, and you'll see it. Somebody will come out and they'll start a scene, and they'll start cutting vegetables. Millions of tons of vegetables are cut every day on stages all over the world because it's all people know how to do is cut that. We try to go to the next level, which is a dependent activity, in which you do something and you share that. If I make coffee, I can hand a coffee cup to somebody. When you're at work, you have a job description. You know what you're supposed to do. But are you being independent all the time and you're not being dependent? And that means working with other people and helping them when they need to be helped. And that's very important because people look for that in the business world. If you're done, go help your partner out. And who? An identifiable relationship. And what I mean by that is, what is your relationship with your boss? What's your relationship with the people that report to you? What's your relationship with your peers? On the stage is not simply saying that I recognize that I'm the father and this is my son. It's that I identify with what that relationship means to me. Yeah, I had a girlfriend that treated me like that once. Be honest with yourself and take 3 people that you work with at work and write down what you think that your relationship is with them. Not that she's my boss, but she reminds me of my grandmother. Or she reminds me of that neighbor that I hated. Because everybody says, what's the story with Jim at work? They want to know my story, right? And this is all part of it, who, what, and where. Implied status. Your boss doesn't always want to be the boss. Sometimes they want you to take charge. If you work with a boss that won't give you status, seriously think about where you're working. They should be trying to bring you up. On stage, we're constantly trying to give status away. I don't want to be the guy in charge. I'm trying to give it to somebody else because I want them to grow. I want them to take the spotlight every once in a while. And the last one is inner want, and it's so important because people do this on purpose. I don't care what my boss wants. I don't care what Mary in the next cubicle wants. You've got to know what people's inner wants are. You have to know what yours are, and you can't deny those. And on stage, when somebody has an inner want, I try to give that to them. It could be something as simple as that all your boss wants to do is play golf. Let her. Help her out. This is about you getting to where you want to be. And I talked a little bit about the evil part of humor, and that we teach people to stay away from that. And I think that maybe if these guys got a real aggressive kick to their reproductive area, maybe the money in your pocket would still be worth a little bit more. Thank you.